Hey y'all, welcome back to Degree Harder with Ashley, and I'm of course your girl, Ashley. And I just want to, do a quick check-in. I know the holiday just passed. I hope everyone had a great Labor Day, which is why I didn't post on Monday because of the holiday. And then it was just a lot going on. So I know I'm a little late, but I'm back, and we just gonna get straight into it. So today, our topic is going to be tropical cyclones. And I chose tropical cyclones because here in the US, it is hurricane season. Hurricane season goes from June 1st to November 30th. And it's September. And September is actually the most active month of the season. So, and we just had, Hurricane Ida that just passed through the Gulf and half of the, eastern coast. So, why not? Let's dig a little deeper, some basis of what tropical cyclones are. So tropical cyclones are the most destructive storms on this planet, and they normally form over tropical waters. Like I say, here in the US, I say that because different regions have their seasons. Most of them are around the same time. Some start in May and end in November, or start in June and end in November. But they only call different names too because of those regions. So here in the US and where they form over the Atlantic, they're called hurricanes, which is why. So any storm that forms over the Atlantic or the Eastern Pacific is called hurricanes. They're called typhoons when they form in the Western Pacific, and they're called cyclones when they form over the Indian Ocean. You don't really get any hurricanes that form at the equator, because you have to have this force called Coriolis force, and at the equator you don't have that force. And Coriolis force is actually an apparent force. It helps give that rotation to these storms, and at the equator you don't have that rotation. So normally in the northern hemisphere, that Coriolis force will go to the right, and then in the southern hemisphere that force will go to the left. And actually in the Western Pacific and all that area over there where they're more so-called typhoons, they have more destructive and stronger storms than we do here in the Atlantic. But like I said, we're going to focus more so on hurricanes. So let's get into it. So of course, a hurricane is a tall convective cloud storm that rotates and it forms over warm waters. Here we have tropical disturbances, depressions, tropical storms, and then you have hurricanes. Tropical depressions are really just storms that they have formed and they have that rotation, but the winds are only mostly at 39 miles per hour. Same with depressions. Depressions are a little less than that. They only form in, but they don't have no circulation. They only are like a little organized cluster, and they can see that, hey, something's maybe starting to stir up, so it's called a tropical disturbance. You get a tropical storm once that actually is now formed, has the rotation, and now the winds are at least up to 74 miles per hour. Once it hits 75, it's considered a hurricane. So of course you have your categories. Hurricane, you have your category 1. So that's what I said, same thing from 75 and up. And it just goes down through, and the stronger it gets, the worse the damage and all that can get. And so category 5 is anything that's 155 miles per hour and more. So actually there's a typhoon that happened. It's actually the most intense and the strongest and biggest ever recorded. It was called Typhoon Tip. It literally was so big, like if it happened here in the US, it would literally cover like most of the eastern coast. It would go from New York to Texas and everything. Like, it was that big. Super intense. The winds were at least 200 miles per hour. So you can see how strong and serious these storms can get. But you know, what is the structure of a hurricane? So you have the eye wall, then you have the rain bands. So in the eye, that's where, if you ever experience one, is where it's calm. It's like a funnel. It's normally clear from bottom to top. No winds, anything like that. And then you'll have your eye wall, and your eye wall is where those convective clouds form. And that's where you'll have most of your precipitation, all your winds, and all that. And then you'll have your bands that you see spinning on the outside. They may not have as much rain in them, but some of the winds can still be just as strong. So, of course, you need the right environment for these storms to form. And normally you need to have 5 characteristics. And without those 5 characteristics, one can't form regardless. So, what are those 5 characteristics? So the first one is that the water must be 80 degrees Fahrenheit or higher for it to form. The second one is that surface layer needs to be deep. So that warm water has to go at least to 200 feet or more for it to form. Third, you need the winds to not change. It's like at a steady, constant pace moving. You don't need any type of vertical wind shear. If you have wind shear normally disrupts those that rotation and that wind and weakens it. But with no wind shear, you can have that constant wind flowing. You also need the atmosphere to have a lot of moisture. So you know, you need that water vapor, that moisture in the air to keep the thing going. And then the fifth one is that the location, like I said earlier, you don't have any at the equator, so the location has to be either 5 degrees north or 5 degrees south of the equator. Once you have those 5 ingredients, you got a storm that's gonna be raging. So once these storms are formed, you know, when you hear the news and reports and things of that nature, you know, you have these different destructive qualities to them. And I know people wonder what they are or what this and that is. So some of the most destructive qualities that you can get from a hurricane are storm surge, then just flooding, and then the winds. So of course, storm surge is basically when the wind from these storms push water inland. So when you hear that it's like, oh, there's going to be a storm surge of 15 and 20 feet, you already have regular water. So now you have these high winds pushing all this water inland, just all this water inland. So of course you have the regular sea level, and now you have wind pushing this water 15 and 20 feet, just pushing it all inland. And that's honestly what makes hurricanes the most destructive storms on this planet, is because you have this storm surge that just, water just rushing in nonstop. And then you also have storms that are slow moving. So it's traveling, but it's kind of moving and it's stalling or just slow. So now it's just rain, just dumping. And it's nonstop, like I said, it's slow. So therefore it's just kind of hovering. And these winds and rain is already just pouring. So now you just have it constantly coming. And then, like I said, the winds are the next thing that makes them most destructive. Like I said, Category 5 is 155 and above. And the typhoon that I talked about earlier, just imagine having 200 mile per hour winds just blowing and blowing. And then you have rain and water. Come on. It's really unsurvivable at times. But, you know, that's just the basis of these tropical cyclones. I just wanted to give y'all the basic information. Didn't want to go too much into detail, but that's it really. And if you ever want to know anything else, just ask or tell me. But thank you guys for watching. and I hope you guys have a good day. And make sure to subscribe. Thank you.